Hello and welcome to the MAGA Institute podcast with my partner and co-host, Brooke McGowan. It's been a week, Brooke.
Oh, it's been an amazing week. What a great year. What a great day. What a great week. We are entering the golden age of America. Goodbye to the dark ages. Hello, new life ahead. We're very excited about what an amazing week we've had with the inauguration of President Donald Trump.
Absolutely. And he's already done more in the first 3.5 days than Joe Biden did in 4 full years.
It's actually, just Monday, there were 200 executive orders signed. And then Tuesday, he did more executive orders. And today, I watched him speak to the WEF and tell them, this is the revolution of common sense. It was beautiful. He pulled us out of the World Health Organization, which I think had a little effect to make UN Secretary or WHO Secretary Tedros not show up yesterday. We're not really sure what that was all about, but what a wonderful day. And did you listen to his speech when he spoke to the WEF?
I didn't have a chance to. I was otherwise engaged today.
He told the Bank of America CEO that he was going to straighten up when he treats conservative companies the way he's been treating them. You'll recall that on January 6th, those Americans who were in DC, who are Bank of America customers, had all of their data turned over to the FBI, which is completely unconstitutional, should be illegal. Hopefully he's held to account to that, but President Trump told him that will not happen.
Well, and today a court has ruled that the FISA searches, the warrantless searches, are unconstitutional, and that from now on the Justice Department has to apply to a court for a warrant if any of their investigations uncover connections with Americans. If you're a U.S. national, remember the FISA court or the FISA searches can only be directed at foreign actors on foreign soil. And if there are any connections to an American now, they have to go to a court to get a warrant in compliance with the Fourth Amendment. But he also yesterday, Brooke, put a gag order on HHS, FDA, CDC, NIH. They can't issue any more advices. They cannot publish any more scientific papers, reports, nothing coming out of HHS until further notice, meaning until Bobby gets into the office.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
I just got a message from our good friend Chris Hall that he has signed an executive order this afternoon declassifying the JFK, RFK, and MLK assassination files.
That's awesome. I'm waiting on the 9/11 information. There's 27 pages. That'll come soon, I'm sure. Another great, so many great things, but my favorite has to be that ICE is back at work doing the job that they were meant to do. We have friends and we've had people on our show before, Timbo, you know, that they have been talking about how the morale was so low that so many of them were on the verge, and many did commit suicide during their tenure under Jay Johnson, under Obama, and then recently, of course, with this current administration, with the previous administration, Biden administration, what a disaster the border has been. The news, I keep hearing them say 11 million illegals, but they've said that since the 1980s. They've used that same
It's more
word.
like 40.
It's more like 40 if you really know. I mean, we've read the reports. We know that it is a lot. And then I stood at the gates with our friend Chris Hall, who you just mentioned. This time last year, February 1st, in fact, I went down to the 6W and the 7W gates of Trump's beautiful, big, beautiful wall, where we did watch very many illegals crossing, and the Border Patrol and the Sheriff's Departments, they have to just let them in. Not anymore. Now they are being rounded up and they are going to be sent back. Donald Trump, we are grateful that you love America, and so grateful to the American people for putting you back in office, your rightful place.
In what makes me the happiest so far in this burgeoning administration, and there's a couple things we need to talk about that people think aren't so great so far, and I've got a little bit of a nuanced view on that. But what makes me happy, Brooke, is that Republicans are finally starting to exercise power. at least in the executive branch. We need the legislative branch to do the same. John Thune, you need to strip Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski of all their committee assignments. And not only that, you need to move them into the crappiest basement offices in the Hart office building as far away from the Senate chamber as we can get them. There needs to be a penalty for opposing the president's agenda. And this isn't a cult. This is, we have power, we're going to use it. No more of this get bent over the back of a sofa and call it bipartisanship. Though that Republican Party needs to go the way of the Whigs, Brooke.
I think it will. I think it really did this time, but I'm also encouraged by what we may see happen in 2026 when we do replace some of these wishy-washy, yellow-bellied Republicans, because Trump.
Well, Scott Pressler today said to Bill Cassidy, if you don't vote to confirm Pete Hegseth, I'm going to move from Pennsylvania down to Louisiana and make sure that you are not the general election candidate in 2026. Of course, Scott's was responsible in large part for that great turnaround in Pennsylvania, and he's working on New Jersey now. But speaking of Pennsylvania, Brooke, before we get started today in earnest, can we just have a cheer? Let's give the cheer that Philadelphia Mayor Sherelle Parker gave. E-L-G-E-S. Eagles.
Let's go, Birds.
I would have given her a lot of credit if she said I-G-G-L-E-S, because that's what we in New York call them, the Eagles. But yeah, E-L-G-S-E-S, she thought it spelled.
Oh, that's
Eagles.
sad.
Let's go Birds. And Brooke, last week you mentioned our great sponsor, Mike Lindell and MyPillow, and we briefly discussed My Cross. Well, I'm here to tell you that in addition to the MyPillow wholesale prices that are still on, where you can get a standard classic for $14.98, a queen size for $18.98, and king size for just $1 more, you can also get a discount on the My Cross, and that should be right there. Save 30% on My Cross. Again, no matter what you buy on MyPillow, use promo code TRIBE, T-R-I-B-E, and you're going to get the best discounts available. And it really helps out us here at MAGA Institute, doing things like making sure that Bill Cassidy and Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins do get primaried.
I'd like to see Tom Tillis get primaried. I heard him yesterday say that the J6, and we'll talk a lot about this today on our show, but that the J6 pardons provide him and others on Capitol Hill a security risk. A security risk for these grandmothers and veterans. Some are even professionals, accountants, doctors, some are just construction workers that cared about the country.
Yeah.
That they provide a security risk for them, Tom Tillis, if they were to be pardoned and released 3 nights ago, they were really supposed to be released, but you know, the DC gulag had stretched it out as long as they possibly can. So Tom Tillis, we may be coming for your seat too. You're going to be up for election in 2026.
Well, and our good friend, Jeremy Brown, I know a lot of people, Lara Logan and you and I, and a lot of people have been working tirelessly to try to get some justice for Jeremy. It looks like they're going to try to move him to Philadelphia, Brooke, which is a hellhole amongst the Bureau of Prison hellholes. And let's not forget, the most dangerous time for an inmate is during transfer. That's when they got Whitey Bulger. So we need to keep praying for Jeremy Brown.
Why isn't he free?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everything's going to come out in the wash. Unfortunately, until then, the real criminals are still walking around. And our guest today actually filmed some of the real criminals on the east side of the Capitol. We were on the west side. We never made it to the Capitol because of that wind there, but for the grace of God, we would have been in that crowd. Our good friend and Florida coordinator, Sherry Corbine, was, and she was tear gassed. But Bobby Powell was on the east side, and here he is to tell us what he saw and what he's been doing since to get some justice for these J6ers. I'd like to welcome back the MAGA Institute podcast, our very good friend, Bobby Powell.
Well, thank you, Tim and Brooke. I appreciate you having me on. It's been a while since I've been in the public eye. after I testified for the defense in the praying grandmother trial in Washington, D.C., just before Easter, I had my 8th heart attack since January 6th.
Did you
And
say eighth? Did you say eighth?
eighth, eighth.
Bobby.
And they did some corrective heart surgery, but it's not working. So I've testified in 3 trials now, and all I've come home with is a Donald Trump bobblehead. But in any case, Jeremy Brown, I was
Bobby,
there.
before we go to Jeremy, let me just ask you a question. In any of those 3 cases in which you testified, did they introduce your video into evidence?
Oh, this is a fun story. You're going to enjoy this. In the first trial, United States versus Nancy Barron, she was pushed inside the Capitol by a man who is yet unidentified, but he goes by the hashtag of Capitol Doorman. Okay. I had video of this, and Brooke's seen it. You've seen it, Tim.
Yeah.
And she was pushed inside the Capitol by this federal agent. And the government fought for 6 hours to keep my video out of evidence and me off of the stand. When they failed, they threatened to prosecute me for simply being on Capitol grounds in a blatant attempt at witness intimidation.
Well, not only witness intimidation, but First Amendment violation. Your helmet and your vest and everything said media.
Chris.
Well, yeah, I've been a journalist since 1987. I've got a degree in everything. So, yeah. And I've worked in radio, television, and print media since then. So, there's no denying that I'm a credentialed journalist. I've got a license from the FCC to operate any radio or television station in the nation. So, they couldn't impeach the video, so they tried to keep it out, and they tried real hard. And once it was allowed, and after I had to go get a public defender because they were threatening to charge me for simply being on Capitol grounds in that red perimeter that they just made up after the fact.
We also have video, by the way, that came out last week of likely a federal agent removing the chain link fencing from that outer perimeter.
Yeah, there's 2 of them. As a matter of fact, one of them, his name's Garrett James Smith, is a man that brought a pipe bomb to the Jeremy Brown rally or vigil on January 6, 2022. He was also filmed in Washington, D.C. He had come into DC on a Hippies for Trump bus, and Metro PD stopped the bus and arrested the bus driver and the bus owner for illegal guns and drugs. But they let old Garrett James Smith go on his happy way and afterwards he was filmed leading the attack on the barricades with no other than Ray Epps. So and even after he was arrested down here for having that pipe bomb by the Pinellas County Sheriff's Department, he kept his mouth shut. The sheriff confirmed he was Antifa. He had no social media footprint. He had never made a threat. He was born on January 6th, 2000. He kept his mouth shut for a week, and the FBI swooped in and saved his butt. They called the Pinellas County and the Hillsborough County bomb squads a bunch of amateurs that don't know what they're talking about, and declared that destructive device, which Sheriff Galtieri said was very destructive and could have hurt a lot of people. He said they don't know what they're talking about. So it was just an ordinary harmless smoke device. And they let him go, and old Garrett James Smith has disappeared into the wind.
If he ever even existed in the first place.
Exactly.
Meaning, go ahead, Brooke.
I was just going to ask him, for our audience sake, we had you on our second show when we did our audio podcasts back in 2021. And here is our second show with video. We have you on. We're so glad to have you. But would you tell the audience so they can know what it was you did record? We remember that you recorded something very vital that is very important, and you shared it with a lot of people in Congress and a lot of people in power, and it was shut down over and over again, which is the video you're referencing. Would you tell them what you recorded?
Well, I recorded video of two men that I know are federal agents. As a matter of fact, bombshell, I know the identity of Capitol Glass Man. This is a man who was dressed completely in black, paramilitary gear, had a radio on, and one of those camelback pouches that you can drink out of, right? So he had full face mask and everything covered. And after Hunter Emke, an Antifa supporter from Glendora, California, had initially broken one of the panes in a Senate office window, Capitol Glass Man pulled that window completely out of its frame. And he's telling me while I'm standing there, and he's not realizing that my camera is recording.
Right.
He says, why don't you guys open up the rest of it and go on inside? And I replied, because that was probably be illegal. So the crunching of this glass, because he's standing off to my right, and I'm not looking at him. I'm just filming me picking up debris. I don't want to take home a couple of souvenirs. So, but the crunching of the glass got so loud in my right ear that I wheeled my camera around just in the nick of time to capture this still unidentified man, well, publicly unidentified, pull that window from its frame and step aside to let rioters enter. And the second federal agent, he's known as a Capitol Doorman. He was wearing brown paramilitary gear, and he was holding the Columbus doors open with a pole while pushing people inside. Nancy Barron was one of them, and he tried to push me inside, but fortunately, God was with me, and you don't consider getting hurt a blessing from God, but it sure was, because I got a face full of mace just as, and the whole crowd got a face full of mace just as he was pushing me towards the threshold of the Columbus doors. And
meanwhile, those Columbus doors cannot be forced. You couldn't force them with the Sherman tank. You'd have to literally fire a tank round into them because they're electromagnetically locked. So the question, Bobby, remains, who opened the doors?
That's a very good question, because when I started filming at the bottom of the steps, on the east side of the Capitol steps, those outer doors, the 20,000-pound Columbus doors, were shut and they were magnetically sealed. By the time I got up to the top of the steps, they were open. So
no amount of pushing will do that.
Well, you got to pull.
Yeah.
I mean,
what else was interesting that day? I think I recall a female Capitol Police sergeant doing something a little suspect.
No, that's not within my
Remember, she lined them up. She lined all the officers after the black Antifa, black bloc Antifa guy took the window out. She ordered all the officers up against the wall, and then they all went inside.
Oh yeah. Now, okay. Now I know what you're talking about. Yeah. After Hunter Emke had broken that window, this squad of 8 Capitol Hill police officers received a transmission telling them to displace and move to another area. That leaves that window completely undefended. Okay. 90 seconds later, 1 minute and 30 seconds later, Capitol Glass Man starts pulling that window from its frame.
Mm-hmm.
That was a setup. They were told to go so that there wouldn't be any witnesses. Well, they didn't count on me being there, because I not only witnessed it, I recorded it, and the FBI has been scared to death of me ever since. I've given them a total of 7 opportunities for me to come in, sit down for an interview, and give them all of the video that I shot on the 5th, 6th, and 7th, and I have been refused each and every time.
Bobby, you
somebody-
also shared that stick with so many congressional members. Can you name a few and maybe even some cabinet people that you may have shared it with, and then just to be out of hand ignored?
Well, let's start with Matt Gaetz, okay, and Lauren Boebert. I first handed the video to them at a Trump rally in Sarasota on July 3rd, 2001. I followed up with registered letters and emails to their press people and have gotten no response at all, except for the United States Postal Service receipt that I got when the package was signed for. Okay, so there's two of them. Let's see, who else is on the weaponization committee? I gave it to Thomas Massey. Gave it to Greg Stubbe. He's my representative down here in Florida now. As a matter of fact, when I went at the invitation of Senator Ron Johnson to present parts of the Epic Times documentary, January 6th, The Real Story, The Long Road Home, Congressman Massey and I were seatmates on the same plane leaving out of Sarasota. I asked him, you planning on coming to the congressional screening of this movie tonight? And he says, sure, I'll be there. He didn't show.
Do you attribute that to the fact that people just didn't have the stomach for it until Trump was reelected or elected rightfully?
I don't know. I'm not a mind reader. I can't see what's inside people's minds. But in total, I have given this video to 25 members of Congress, 4 of them on the weaponization committee. Barry Loudermilk, and Clay Higgins just got it within the last year.
Well, hopefully Pam Bondi and Kash Patel will cast a kind eye toward it.
Can I tell you a secret? Well, it's not really a secret. When I went to CPAC 22 in Orlando, I handed out scores of these packages that contained a thumb drive with the original video on it. And just in case people were afraid to stick a thumb drive from an unknown person out on a 3-page written narrative along with my business card. Okay. I gave it to Acting Attorney General or former Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker, Sean Spicer, Sebastian Gorka. The list goes on, but the most important person that I gave it to was Kash Patel.
Okay. Well, we don't intend to disparage anybody, but we are curious as to why such incredible evidence has been ignored by those names that you've mentioned. It's very curious to me that maybe, they didn't have the stomach for it. And I don't understand that because we've been appreciative of them for being such fighters for so long. So my hope now is that they will fight for this and they will fight for you. And can you give us maybe a roundabout of how much money you've actually invested in just this fight alone since January 6th of 2021?
Well, after my video first came out, I was kicked off of Twitter. Facebook demonetized me. Google demonetized me. YouTube's AdSense program demonetized me. I had been, before that, I'd been living on Social Security. I was just doing my show as a kind of like a hobby because haven't been quite right for a while. Not up here. It's the body that's not cooperating.
Oh.
But I had to sell my house and everything that I owned. And I have used my life savings, every single dime of it, to travel this country and physically putting these January 6th packages into the hands of people that should be able to do something. Why they're not doing something, I couldn't begin to tell you.
Are you not arrested for being on the grounds because you were wearing the media gear?
No, I think that the reason that I wasn't arrested was because if they had arrested me, all of my video
Yep.
would be put into evidence. They, in the 3 trials that I testified in, every time I made a salient point or was about to show the jury something that was very important, the prosecution would object. And I quote, "Your Honor, this evidence is prejudicial to the government."
Yeah,
No
well,
kidding.
guess what? Its probative value far outweighs any prejudicial effect it would have on the government. I can attest to that, having seen just about all three. It's about 3 hours, isn't it? In total?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the judges let them get away with it. There were 3 trials under 2 judges. The first one with Nancy Barron, and the last one with Rebecca Lavrins was under Judge Zia Farquhar. And U.S. v. Ryan Zink was under James Skull and Bones Boasberg. Okay. He is a member of Skull and Bones, and we all know what Kennedy said about secret societies. They can't be trusted. Okay. So at that last trial, the Rebecca Lavrins, the praying grandma, I watched video of her being pushed into the United States Capitol, not by the same Capitol doorman. At that time, he had been hit in the face himself with a pepper ball, and he'd been put out of action. But this little 90-year-old or 90-pound grandma, I think she's 72, was caught in a crush of people that were surging through the door. She had no choice of where she was going. They pushed her. This entire crowd surrounded Rebecca Lavrins, and she was pushed into the Capitol. And first thing she did was get out of that crowd and walk up the steps and start praying. When she was done praying, she walks towards the door, which is clear by now, fairly clear, speaks with the Capitol Hill police officer for just a second, and then leaves. And they found that woman guilty of the standard 4 misdemeanors and what was it, 1512, the felony. They wanted to put her in prison for 10 months. Okay, for
And that's a
praying
light
inside the
sentence compared
Capitol.
to some of these people got 15 years.
Exactly. And there's no way you're going to get a fair trial in a DC jury where 97% of the populace votes for Democrats. There's just absolutely no way. And you've got these corrupt judges and prosecutors too. When the prosecutors were lying and telling the jury that Hunter Emke, the man who broke the window, and Gavin Kroll, he was the first person that tried to rush in, that I stopped. I got in his way and I yelled at him, "Do not go in there." Okay. They tried to paint both of them as MAGA supporters.
Yeah.
And I told the judge, because he wouldn't allow me to converse with the defense attorney that brought me there.
It was a Trump supporter that pulled him away from breaking the window.
I'm not sure. I'm the Trump supporter. I was the only Trump supporter in that area.
No, there was as he was breaking the window on the video, there's a big guy in a MAGA hat that pulls him away before they arrested him. And they arrested him and they took him off, and then all of a sudden he was released.
Yeah, you're talking about now about Hunter Emke, the guy that originally
Hunter Emke,
broke the window.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had been in contact with his mother and him for over 2 years, trying to get him to come on my show and tell his story. And I had also conducted an interview with Gavin Kroll. He contacted me 4 months after the Fedsurrection, wanted to tell his story. I had those text messages from Hunter Emke's mother and from Hunter Emke saying that he was more leaning towards BLM and Antifa than anything else. I had my video interview with Gavin Kroll, the redheaded kid in the sunglasses, where he claims that he was an anarchist. Okay. I didn't see any Trump supporters committing violence
No.
on January 6th. What I
And
do know,
5 officers were not killed by protesters, which is the lie that keeps getting told in the media.
well, not one police officer was killed by the protesters.
No.
Not a single one. Brian Sicknick died the day after of natural causes. And I think 3 or 4 of the others that they claim died because of January 6th committed suicide months afterward.
But Ashley Babbitt was killed by Michael Byrd. Not only was he promoted, he was just pardoned.
Oh, yeah. And so was the January 6th committee. And that upsets me because Adam Kinzinger is one of the people that I gave my video to. He destroyed evidence that would have proven that Trump supporters were not charging and leading the Fedsurrection.
It's
and now
disgusting.
he's going to get away with it.
Susan Boland that was trampled to death, beat to death by a U.S. Capitol police officer, D.C. police officer?
Roseanne
Boland. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, she was caught in a mob in a tunnel on the west side. I'm not expert on the west side, but I have seen the video many times. I am
it's horrific.
I'm friends with the man who tried to save her life.
Yeah.
And well, 2 of the men that tried to save her life, and the
Jake.
way that she was treated with, Tommy Tatum News, Ben Paxton, and there was one other guy, I can't remember his name, a guy that held the crutches up.
Oh, yeah.
To keep the Capitol Police from beating her.
Right.
So it's just a mess. The prosecution and judges are lying. The FBI is lying, and it's time to see some justice. And
it really is. And the FBI is not just lying; they're planting evidence. Let's pivot now to our friend Jeremy Brown. Tell his story.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this shirt that I'm wearing right now, I bought at that Jeremy Brown rally where Garrett James Smith tried to blow me up. And this is 6 weeks after I had appeared on Newsmax, and my friend, we'll put that word friend in air quotes, Congressman Kerry Bentivolio, invited me to lunch at a rib shack in Bay City and offered me $200,000 to lose the video and never speak of it again.
What?
I told him, oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Matter of fact, you'll see if you go to Live Zobi on Twitter, you will see my interview with Nick Searcy and Chris Burgard, and we're talking about that.
Wow.
So Jeremy Brown is a special case. They haven't released him yet. They're still trying to hold him on federal charges that were brought in relation to January 6th because he was never there. Jeremy Brown got into trouble because he, excuse me, he published audio and video of 2 federal agents that tried to get him to become a confidential human informant inside the Oath Keepers. They didn't arrest him until then. And then when they did, they planted hand grenades and allegedly classified evidence inside of a trailer on his property. The only problem with that is there were no fingerprints of his on the CD that supposedly contained the classified evidence, and his fingerprints weren't on the hand grenades either. So it's my belief that the FBI planted those.
Not only were his fingerprints not on there, and the only reason the jury excluded the CD was because it was in a red jewel case, and in all the photographs in the video that they took during the search of that camper, it was not in plain sight. There was no CD there. And then all of a sudden, this CD miraculously appeared. And that was too much even for a DC jury. But the grenade case is even worse, because anybody that's ever used sticky tape knows that at the edge of the sticky tape, you're going to get dust. You're going to get hairs. If you drop it on the carpet, you're going to get fibers. You're going to get dog hair. right? The edge of sticky tape is sticky. Well, Green Berets each have their own signature way of wrapping their own grenades so that they don't accidentally detonate. In the wrap pattern, Jeremy told me when I interviewed him from Pinellas County Jail over the phone, the wrap pattern wasn't his pattern. Moreover, the FBI's TAC lab, the technical lab, did not find a single fiber, not a carpet fiber, not a dog hair, not Jeremy's hair, not any epithelials. There was literally zero physical evidence to tie Jeremy Brown to those hand grenades, and yet the DC jury bought that they were his, and that's why he is still in jail. It's an outrage.
It most certainly is. I mean, there were some people in the January 6th crowd that weren't nice people, okay? And they did some bad things, but they're a very small minority. Okay, now from my information, I have identified over 300, well, with the help of a team of attorneys led by Brad Geyer, identified over 300 federal assets that were attacking the Capitol. And just yesterday, I saw that the number could be as high as 800. So, so
it's so high, Bobby, they don't even know how many they had there themselves.
Yeah, that's true. The big headline was the FBI had 26 undercover agents at the Capitol in Washington on January 6th, and 13 of them stayed outside and only 7 of them went into the Capitol. Well, you multiply that number by about 15, and then you're going to get a little bit closer to it. 26, ain't buying it. And I'll tell you something else. You asked before why nobody has done anything. Well, I got a LinkedIn message from Pete Sessions' chief of staff, who I had given my video to at the Patriot Network Summit in June of 2021. And a year later, I asked him, has anything ever come of that? And he tells me, and I quote, "We are waiting for the midterms. No use putting out anything now." So maybe these folks that I have given it to are waiting for the correct time to pounce.
Well, we hope and pray that's the case. That I will concede the timing is important. However, Bobby, it seems like it's always jam yesterday and jam tomorrow, but never jam today with these Republicans.
Yeah, they're always writing strongly worded letters, right? Okay, but I gave Senator Josh Hawley my video. He was the first senator to receive it on March 3rd, 2021, through his press liaison, Ben Grunder.
Mm-hmm.
And I met Hawley a second time at CPAC 22 in Orlando, and I handed him one of my January 6 packages, and I asked him, have you ever seen this before? He said, no. So I explained what it was, what was in it, and he said, thank you for what you're doing. You're doing a great job. I said, well, God bless you, sir. And his office will not return my phone calls. He has never called out Ray or Garland for lying to Congress. That's a federal statute, 18 U.S.C. 1001, punishable by up to 3 years in prison and a nice hefty fine. So it's my most fervent hope and prayer that now with Kash Patel coming in as head of the FBI, they are gonna sweep all the rot right out of it.
I hope so. And Bobby, what I want is the DC jail guards, warden, Mayor Bowser, all the FBI agents involved, all the feds involved. I want them criminally prosecuted under 18 U.S.C. 242, deprivation of right under color of law, which provides, among other things, that if someone unlawfully detained by a federal agent under color of law dies, then the penalty is death. We need to go hard in the paint against these feds, these corrupt feds that have violated the rights of Americans with impunity. Enough. It's time for justice in America.
Tim, you're absolutely right. And that's probably the reason that I've had 8 heart attacks in the last since January 6th, because I keep pushing and pushing, burning both ends of the candle at the same time. And I just it irks me. It really irks me that all of these powerful people have this video. They know what it is, and they refuse to use it to free. Over the past 4 years, they have refused to use it to get January 6th prisoners out of jail. They could have turned the insurrection narrative into one of Fedsurrection 4 years ago, and they have let January 6th political prisoners rot in prison. They've been medically and physically abused and psychologically tortured to the point of suicide. Okay, I'm not down with that. I'm a United States Marine. We leave no man behind. We go back to retrieve the dead. Okay, I don't care what kind of plan that they have. They have ruined the lives of countless innocent people, and they're going to have to answer for that, whether it's in this life or the next.
Well, there will definitely be a reckoning, whether it's on this realm or the next. You're absolutely right. We're going to have to leave it there. Brooke, do you have anything else?
I did want to ask Bobby about a situation he had when he had his life threatened. Do you recall?
That was when Carrie Bentivolio, the representative from the state of Michigan, offered me $200,000 to stop talking about my video after it appeared on Greg Kelly's show on Newsmax. He was supposed to be my friend, and I went to him to help me get this video directly to President Trump, because I know that as a United States congressman, he's got a black book full of numbers I could never hope to obtain, right? But first thing he does after our meal comes down, he sits down, he says, Bobby, what's it going to take to get you to stop talking about your January 6th video? And I said, why would I want to do that? It proves President Trump wasn't responsible for the insurrection. He says, because Ron Weiser wants you to. You know who Ron Weiser is, right? I said, of course I do. He's the chairman of the Michigan Republican Party. Why would he want me to stop talking about this video? Carrie did not answer my question.
Who cares what he wants?
Well, he didn't answer my question, but he came back with, how about $100,000? I kind of laughed it off for a second. I said, you got to be kidding me, bro. He says, how about $200,000? Now I know that my friend is actually offering me a bribe to lose that video and never speak of it again. So I tell him, look, Carrie, you can go back and you can tell Ron Weiser that he does not have enough money to buy my honor or my silence. You can tell Ron Weiser that if he wants me to shut up, he's going to have me killed. At which point, Congressman Bentivolio said that could be arranged. And 6 weeks later, while I'm showing the video outside the Pinellas County Jail to a crowd of Trump supporters for the Jeremy Brown vigil, a man was arrested with a pipe bomb that the Pinellas County Sheriff said could have been very destructive and hurt a lot of people. 6 weeks from a death threat from a United States congressman and an actual attempt on my life is not a coincidence.
Well, Bobby, here's how I know what you just said is true. Because if it weren't true, you'd already have been sued. And you haven't been sued, have you?
No, I haven't been. As a matter of fact, Nick Searcy and Chris Burgard just released an extended version of their latest movie, War on Truth, in which I make this accusation. I recount it just like I have now to Chris Burgard. Chris Burgard calls Carrie Bentivolio and asks him, is all this true? And all he could say is, it's a lie, it's a lie, it's a lie. And then he threatens Chris Burgard, the director of War on Truth. If you publish this, I may have to sue you.
Wow.
And Chris Burgard came back and says, Well, why haven't you sued Bobby Powell?
Right.
Yeah, I could see Chris saying that. Chris and Nick are doing the Lord's work, and you are too, Bobby. Bobby, please take care of yourself. We need you in this fight for a lot longer, brother, and you're doing the Lord's work.
Semper Fi, my man. We're so glad to see you today.
Yeah, thank you, and tell Sean I said hi, and one day I hope to get to meet all of you again, right up in person, and give you a great big hug.
You got it.
Outstanding.
You got it. Take care, buddy. Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, it was so great to see Bobby Powell again. Like as I said during the broadcast, we had Bobby on our show for our second audio podcast in 2021. So this was nice to have him return today. And it was the same topic then because we had all just suffered through 2021, January 6th together.
It was. And I've had him on my show, The Reckoning, on today's News Talk. But Brooke, Bobby gave us new information today. He never told us before about the death threat.
Right. Right. I had only read that, I think, recently on a social post that he posted. So that's why I wanted to bring it up. Being threatened by a sitting congressman is no small thing.
No. You know, doesn't this seem like a movie, a made-for-TV movie, ABC movie of the week from the 70s about political corruption?
A Tom Clancy flick.
Or, yeah, something. Robert Ludlum, something.
Yeah, yeah, it's been insane. Just to see what what's taken place just this week. You know, we're still waiting on so many prisoners to be released. Like you mentioned about the DC gulag, they have been actually abused, put in solitary confinement. They have not gotten representation. They're not able to see a lawyer. Some of them have been handed poop sandwiches. I won't say what has been said, but literally
they've been denied their meds. They've been denied medical consultations.
And they're still sitting there today.
Yeah.
I think there's 20 that remain after all this.
And folks, let me be clear. When we say they're in solitary confinement, they're not in a little bedroom like you see in a Norwegian prison. It's literally an 8-foot by 11-foot cell with a bucket for a toilet and a thin inch-thick mat for their bed. It's absolutely unconscionable, the conditions in which they're being kept.
Inhumane and criminal. And
we treat dogs better at the
yeah.
SPCA.
Right. Absolutely. What a crazy time. I mean, I think that Trump's going to do something. I saw that the marshals were getting involved. I don't know where that stands today. But we can be hopeful and also continue to call Congress and make sure that we get our Trump's nominees put through this next week. I heard today that Lisa Murkowski has decided she will not support Pete Hegseth's.
Right.
And I know that we've got other squishy senators, excuse me, that have also been on the fence. So people, like Steve Bannon says, action, action, action. You call your senators, both of them, and you let them know that they've got to give Trump what Trump wants. This is a mandate across the country. What took place on November 5th was a huge message that we have to send, and they must let Trump have his cabinet.
Absolutely. All we can do is spread the word. Please share this podcast, share it around all your platforms, and please keep storming heaven and earth. Keep praying, because ultimately God is in charge.
Amen. Amen.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there.
Nice.
Thanks, Kent.
That's cool.
Hit that post.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bobby. You're the best. I'm so sorry to hear about your 8 heart attacks. I did not realize you've suffered like that. I knew you had been sick and you had a heart attack, but I didn't know 8. Good Lord.
Yeah, I didn't know it was